So this was a cloudy day, and there's the first scan. So I had to readjust the camera a bunch of times because the sun keeps moving away and my scope of the camera is not wide enough. There we lost the sky camera. It overheated. Alright, there's another scan. Yeah, you could see these bumps up and down. This is because of clouds. However, as you can see, the movement of the actual reflector corresponds to the movement of the graph. This is because we're using an inclinometer. So inclinometer is really adding a lot, but it has some issues. I'm going to talk about it. To be fair, inclinometer itself doesn't have issues. It's the issues that it reveals about the system, I think. I'm not 100% sure yet. Yeah, this was a moment, I could even rewind it a little bit, where we had good output when the sun came out of the clouds, 70, 80. Yeah, it jumped to 80 watts. That was the best that day. And that should be about it. I don't have good footage that day. Then the next day was sunny. It's pretty much the same thing, but on a sunny day. I swapped the two cameras. The one pointing at the sky now has this big glare, which I don't like, but it's more resilient to overheating. Yeah, so see how when it's scanned, if I rewind a little bit here, it's going slowly straight going down. And then suddenly there'll be this angle change. It starts going out sharp. See that one? And that corresponds right when you have this shadow hitting the panel. That makes sense. So I could probably have an algorithm that detects that there's a shadow so you don't have to scan after that. Because if you're casting a shadow, then it's game over. You just want to stay within this region. And then you could see the reflection, a more illuminated part. Now here it's maxing out the panel. We're about 90 watts, which is the maximum. There's that steep climb down. I'm going to localize right here on the peak there. And then, yeah, localization's been working great with the inclinometer. The issues I'm having is these scans are pretty slow. And it's because every step that the panel makes, the reflector then detects a wobble. And that wobble lasts quite a bit of time. 10 seconds or 20 seconds. Sometimes they'll show you during a windy day, it can last an hour. You should keep wobbling. So the inclinometer is telling us that there's a wobble. So currently I just refuse to move. If there's a wobble, I'm not going to take any measurements, not going to make any decisions, concluding that's just not enough accuracy. But maybe we can somehow deal with that as well. The reason I'm not so sure that it's not inclinometer's fault is that I can't visibly see that wobble. If I look, I think I very closely looked, I could see it shake a tiny bit, but I wonder if that's enough to cause issues with decision making. And I wonder if it's actually something with the inertia of moving the inclinometer, because it's measuring the G's, the gravity, the accelerations, that it it over exaggerates how much it's shaking. Maybe it's saying it's shaking by 2 degrees. So 2 degrees seems a lot, something that I should visibly see, but I'm not sure it's completely not the fault of inclinometer. But we'll, once I figure something out, I'll explain it. So yeah, there's definitely some benefit from, okay, there's a part where data was stale, so that could be because of the wobble. They're localized, but by that point it's much lower on the output. Sun's starting to go down pretty quickly. And the reason that, see how the dot jumped up a lot? That's because it's below 50. So I'm using this double color graph, which is meant to conserve the vertical space. But I'm thinking of removing that. It's just a little too confusing, especially to explain it. It's really hard. But I could make this graph 3 times taller and just have a normal one level of charting instead of doing this double color thing and having these weird jumps. But there's actually nothing jumping. It just went below 50. That's all that happened. Yeah, you can see it curving down as the sun's going down. The outputs are going down, but it seems to also track the sun pretty proportionally to an amount of movement. This is the first time I'm actually looking at the sun through the same time lapse. Yeah, there's quite a bit of gain now. It's 40% at 30 watts. So it was just for a few minutes. Alright, see a little shooting airplane went by. Alright, and finally, there's a little more modification here. The chart, well, the color is different, but I'm also printing the wobble, how long the wobble took. So the very first number is, let's say it's 10 seconds right here. That's the last wobble that when I did one step, took a measurement, and another step, took a measurement. That one step was 10 seconds. I had to wait for 10 seconds for the wobble to quiet down before it got stable. 14 seconds is the average wobble throughout the whole day. And then this 2000% thing is the ratio of how much time I'm spending in the wobble time divided by the useful time. So a lot of this time is not useful. It's just waiting for the wobble. About 2000%, it'll go up to 3000%. And also the colors will be weird here. So everything above 50 is dark, so the dark purple. I'm gonna fix this. And the white is everything below 50. That was a very sunny day. But here you go. So here's where it's gonna start to get stuck. 600 seconds. And move it a little more. It was a windy day. It was sunny and very, very windy. So here I think it got stuck for a long time. I tried just holding my hand on it. That didn't take away the wobble. I mean, it took it away, but my hand was too shaky. So then what I did is, you can see me coming back here, and what I'm doing is I'm installing some rubber bands. So put rubber bands like this, connected to this washer here, and then put more and more rubber bands, kind of like in those watermelon parties. And then that didn't work, so I ended up putting more rubber bands at this better angle here. Found a little place to grab on the bottom. See how I'm like grabbing it by the corner of the board that holds the reflector arm. So here's what happens after I put the rubber bands. It was helpful. Kind of got the system unstuck. And yeah, I see this big gap. The sun moved so much by that time that there's this scan is very inconsistent. Yeah, another reason to make the scans faster is that it wouldn't change, the sun wouldn't move so much while the scan is happening. So I think I have a way of making fast scans. Just kind of ignore the wobble and then use something else to figure out the different offsets. I mean, not really, not the offsets from the wobble, but just if you keep scanning continuously and taking measurements, you're not sure, you're not fully stopped. You're taking measurements while the thing is moving. So you're not sure where you took the measurement, whether it was the position versus the watts. There may be a delay between those two measurements. So what I'm thinking is I could do a few of these movements, maybe one full forward, then half of it back, and then half of it that way, then 10%. That way I kind of have some coverage, and I could align the charts. You could do this alignment with time series, and then I could see what the offsets were and figure out what the delay was between the position measurement and the watts measurement. But we'll see. I think that will work pretty well, but it'll come in the next videos. I also had some wild ideas of how to get rid of the wobble, but probably not going to do it. There's a 12% gain. The gain's been not so significant as I previously seen. Maybe it's because my reflector's getting dusty or something. But I'll work on that once I get all the movements figured out. Right now it's just going through the motions. And fighting with wobble. Probably gonna name the video Fighting with Wobble. But yeah, see, now it's kind of moving along now. It's only 1000% and 6 seconds average after I've installed the rubber band. So did great. It helped a lot. There's the sun going down. Some huge gains, showing 600% gains, which is not accurate because the scan happened while this thing was in the shade, and it kind of came out of the shade, so that wasn't the 600% gain. No, that estimate is not perfect. All right, that's it.